Good day, everyone. So today is our first week for the second quarter lesson of the subject CSS 12. So today we are going to have a new topic, and that our topic for today is all about installing and configuring computer systems, or ICCS. So before that, let me first read to you the objectives. So at the end of this chapter, the students should be able to A. Plan unit assembly to ensure OHS policies and procedures are followed in accordance with systems requirements. B. Prepare unit assembly to ensure OHS policies and procedures are followed in accordance with systems requirements. C. Identify materials necessary to complete in accordance with establishment procedures and check against system requirements. D. Obtain materials necessary to complete the work in accordance with established procedures and check against system requirements. E. Obtain tools, equipment, and testing devices needed to carry out installation work in accordance with established procedures and check for correct operation and safety. And letter F, we have assemble computer hardware in accordance with established procedures and system requirements. And of course, the last one, letter G, perform BIOS or BIOS configuration in accordance with hardware requirements. So our lesson for today, again, is all about assemble computer hardware, specifically on occupational health and safety policies and procedures. So, during installation and initial tests, careful planning and preparation are to be done. So, to avoid personal injury and damages to wiring due to sharp pins on connectors and printed circuit assemblies, rough chases, edges, and corners, and hot components, adhere to warnings and limitations regarding accessibility into areas designated only for authorized technical personnel. So we have here some basic precautions and procedures. So so we have the first one. Before starting the installation, you have to read carefully the documentation and procedures on any hardware and software settings that may be required. You have failure to do the proper jumper setting may cause damage to your CPU. Third, without an effective cooling fan, the CPU can overheat and cause damage to both CPU and the motherboard rather, and each bank must have the same size and type of memory installed in pairs. Next, before adding and removing any other system components, you have to make sure that you unplug your power supply. So failure to do so may cause damage to your motherboard and in the system component. Test the computer for ensuring that it meets the necessary system requirements before booting up. And if the computer does not pass any of the power on self-test or POST, the computer will receive an irregular power on self-test. So an irregular POST or power on self-test is a beep code, which is different from the standard beep, which can either be no beeps at all or a combination of different beeps. Next is the effects of computers. So some effects of computers relating to the violation of privacy, the impact on the labor force, health risks, and the impact on the environment. First, we have the violation of privacy. So, violation of privacy, nearly every life event is stored in a computer somewhere in medical records, credit reports, tax records, and etc. So, it is crucial that personal and confidential records be protected properly. So, in many instances, where these records were not properly protected, individuals have found their privacy violated and identities stolen. Second is we have the impact on labor force. So although computers have improved productivity in many ways and created an entire industry with hundreds of thousands of new jobs, the skills of millions of workers and managers have been replaced by computers. Thus, it is crucial that workers keep their education up to date. So, a separate impact on the labor force is that some companies are outsourcing jobs to foreign countries instead of keeping their homeland labor force employed. Health risk for the third one. So prolonged or improper computer use can lead to injuries or disorders of the hands, wrists, elbows, eyes, necks, and back. So computer users can protect themselves from these health risks through proper workplace design, good posture while at the computer, and appropriately spaced work breaks. So another health risk called the computer addiction. So this computer addiction occurs when someone becomes obsessed with using the computer. So once recognized, computer addiction is a treatable disorder. Fourth one is the public safety. So adults, teen, and children around the world are using computers to share publicly their photos, videos, journals, music, and other personal information. So some example app for this is what we have: the Instagram, the Facebook, and Twitter. So some of these unsuspecting innocent computer users have fallen victim to crimes committed by dangerous strangers. So you have to protect yourself and your dependents from these criminals by being cautious. So for example, do not share information that would allow others to identify or locate you, especially on Facebook. You should not put your address on the information to avoid um, what do you call for you to have a safety, of course, with your family. Next, this the following we have still the last one, the fifth one. We have the impact on environment. So computer manufacturing processes and computer waste are depleting natural resources and polluting the environment. So the amount of resources required to manufacture a personal computer equals that of a mid-sized car. So when computer are discarded in landfills, they release toxic materials and potentially dangerous levels of lead, mercury, and flame retardants. So strategies that can help protect the environment include recycling, regulating manufacturing processes, extending the life of computers, and immediately donating replaced computers. So we have here the following are some factors to be considered when you plan and prepare for the tasks. So first is we have the place. So first one is place. So you have to see to it that the place for doing the task is conducive to work, well ventilated, clean, and has good lighting. A space provided for freedom to move is important. So a place chosen will give you an idea on what task is to be done. So we have here an example image of the place. This one. So as you can see in the image, it is very comfortable enough. It's well ventilated. Next, second one is the waste disposal. So you have used wire or wire strips or other things that can be used anymore. So it must be disposed in proper storage bin or container. Next, we have the tools and or equipment. So tools and equipment must match with the task to be done. So you should be careful enough to choose tools and equipment that are worthy of use. So they must be in good condition so that it can be easily utilized without damaging the parts. So a tool is a handheld device that aids in accomplishing a task. So we have here an example of tools or equipment. So yan yung lalagyan ng mga tools. Next. So tools range from a traditional metal cutting part of a machine to an element of a computer program that activates and controls a particular function. So preparing for the task to be undertaken includes proper tool selection. So we have how first one is how do you select the best tool for the job? First, you know and understand in detail the scope of work to be accomplished. Second, you have to plan for the scope considering the sequence of tasks. Second, you have in selecting the best tool for each task requires training in the proper use of the tools. So field experience in their safe use and following the manufacturer's guidance and instructions for that specific tool. Third is when obtaining the tool, all the associated tooling and consumable parts as recommended by the manufacturer must be included. So in addition, related consumable parts must also be selected and used according to their manufacturer's instructions. So fourth, we have the last one. Oh no, it's not yet the last one. We still have one. So our fourth is safety. So always prioritize safety. Always remember that. So remember that accident is not an excusable incident. So it can be avoided. Always remember the motto safety first. Here. Next, the last one, we have the procedure tasks. So identify what tasks to perform before identifying materials and tools to use. So the service procedure task to deploy will tell you the corresponding tools and materials needed. Appropriate tools to use with the task will enhance your ability to provide a competitive and efficient services. So we have here some pictures and you will know them later. Okay, so we have here. So that ends our lesson for this week. So we will see you next meeting and that could be all for today. Thank you and goodbye.